Welcome back to another episode of the Rock and Railroads podcast. And joining me today, all the way from my same college, is Mr. Kyler Brinker from Bad Authority, dude. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, absolutely. It's a pleasure, Cades. Appreciate it.
Dude, of course. So, for those who don't know, both of us, either currently or in the past, went to a school called Belmont University in Nashville. And I want to hear all about your take on rock music in college, rock music at our school, and kind of where you think that's all been at in the last 6 or 7 years, you know? So when did your band form?
So my band actually, as of June, has been together with the same lineup for 10 years.
Whoa.
Which is nuts. We started, so we're all from Iowa originally. And so we started when we were like really young. I would have been like 15 and my bandmates would have been like 13. And we have just always been chasing that dream and haven't given up on it. And so here we are 10 years later, still lucky to say I consider myself young.
Heck yeah.
and keep doing it, keep doing it, chasing that dream of doing it full time, so.
Dude, it's awesome. And I didn't realize that you guys predated Belmont. I didn't realize that you were a band before you even came to the school.
Yes. So actually, college was an interesting time. Well, it's always been interesting times. I mean, like I just said, we started when we were so young. Like, we've been through it all together, high school graduation. And actually, when college came around, so it was our drummer, Teddy Raymakers, and we both went to Belmont. Our bass player, Miles, went up to Minneapolis, and he's been there ever since. So actually, for the past, I guess, what would that be now? 4 or 5 years, we've actually kind of been a little bit geographically split up.
I got you.
Having that, first 6 years together, I mean, we've had the foundation there that, we can work further apart and still, do what we do. So it's been interesting in that regard, but I don't think it's inhibited us in any way.
Dude, that's awesome. And so when you guys play shows now, is it primarily, it's Iowa, right? Mostly?
Yeah. So we've always kind of been a Midwest band, but, we're always looking for the next steps to break out of that. We didn't, unfortunately, get to do much in Nashville because my time there was so short to begin with. I actually came into Belmont as a transfer student. So
okay.
I transferred in as a full-fledged junior. So I was there from 18 till 20. And then, of course, when 20 happened, everything fell apart.
Yeah.
I ended up coming back to Iowa, and I've been here since. But I am actually hoping to get back down there real soon. I've had a couple job interviews for some other stuff, music biz, that I'm hoping all work out. And fingers crossed, we'll be back down there by the end of the year. So,
dude, so you really only had a year and a half of like live music at college. Would you say that's about right?
Yeah. And it's like I absolutely loved my time at Belmont, and it's like that whole last semester in 20 just fell apart, and I was so bummed because it's like I felt like I had just really started to get the ball rolling on like some of the connections I wanted to make. And I mean, that's always been a huge thing for me is seeing who I can meet and getting out there and just chatting with people, and I just remember distinctly, like, one of the last fun things I had done before coming home from COVID was one of my good buddies, Paul Taylor from Winger.
Oh yeah.
He was a Nashville resident. He had called me up one day in the middle of one of my finance classes out of the blue. And I had picked it up and said, "Hey, Paul, what's up?" He's like, "Oh, not much, man." He's like, "Hey, we're down at the rehearsal space today, rehearsing for the Monsters of Rock cruise." He was talking with Winger. He's like, "You want to come on down and see what we're up to?" I said, "Well, hell yeah."
Dude, bro, that's insane. That's insane.
So that was one of the last fun things that was like February of 20. They were getting ready for that Monsters of Rock cruise, and they were worried about it then, of course, like, because it was starting to trickle in, like this unknown virus and all that. But
Yeah. Did the cruise end up happening that year? I can't remember.
yeah, it did. They did end up doing it, and I remember. So Red Beach, who is famous from Winger and also plays lead in
White
Whitesnake.
Snake, yeah,
Yeah. Red was all worried because he had to go over to Japan with Whitesnake and was worried
Oh,
that he was going to get stuck in Japan.
bro, that was a weird time. I mean, that was probably like what, second week of March, third week of March. That was the
So
week.
how that's all about. But sorry, I just lost you for a second there. What'd you say?
Oh, you're good. I was just saying that was the weirdest time for everybody. I remember I was supposed to go see I want to say it was Night Ranger. I was supposed to go
Oh,
see
yeah.
them in like the third week of March, and that was the first one that got canceled. And then of course everything just you
Just
know trickled out from there. But
well, thank goodness we've kind of gotten back to full steam ahead as far as live music goes, and it's been a weird last couple of years. But you mentioned Night Ranger. We got to play with them last summer. That
I
was a
was
good
gonna
time.
ask. I was gonna ask. I
Yeah.
was literally gonna get to that now. I mean, you're speaking my language with like Red Beach, man. I love him. I love Winger. So you guys have done Quiet Riot shows. You've done Night Ranger, right?
Oh boy, I don't even know if I can rattle them all off the top of my head, but I'll try.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
So this will make for some interesting conversation. But the first national act show we ever did was back in 2016,
Hmm.
and I was a senior in high school, and my bandmates, of course, being a couple of years younger, were sophomores. Well, this will make for some interesting stuff too, regarding making connections, especially with you still being in school. And this goes to show what they say is true. It's all about who you know.
Hmm.
So like when and this still happens today, but ever since we were young, we would always go to shows, and like we would go to appreciate whoever we're seeing, of course, but we'd be doing some groundwork, doing some detective work while we're there to try and figure out, okay, if we don't know already, but like who is in charge of this event, or like who's kind of overseeing everything that's happening here. So we went to see the band Boston in
Of
2015
course. Heck
up
yeah.
in Fort Dodge, Iowa, and we were doing our groundwork, doing our detective work, and it's this local festival they do once a year, but they always get a big rock headliner. So we were just out and about doing our thing, and happened to run into the right people. They gave us the name of the contact there that kind of oversees it all, and so just out of the blue, we called him one day, just a blind phone call, and said, "Yeah, we're from Carroll, and we play some hard rock, and we got original stuff, and we'd love to get up and do your festival sometime." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll come check you guys out." And sure enough, he did. And so one thing kind of led to the next, and then he ended up getting us on the bill with Steve Miller in 2016. So this all kind of snowballed from there. I mean, but that festival was like just eye-opening. It's like it's our first national act show. It's at a festival, and there was 8,500 people there that night.
Dude, that's
Like,
insane. That's insane.
So I just remember we did that, and then it's just, like I said, just kind of snowballed. I think we ended up getting a gig for the first time with Ted Nugent like 4 or 5 days after
Oh my
that.
gosh, bro. You're hitting
So
all my favorites here. This
we
is
did
ridiculous.
in 16. I know we did Steve Miller, Ted Nugent. Then it starts becoming blurry. But we've played with 17. I'm just trying to go through it in my head. I know we played one show with Jackal. I think we played with Ron Keel that year. 18, we played with Gene Simmons, which was like, that was just surreal for me because Kiss has always been my favorite band.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
being able to play with Gene was just a kind of like a dream come true in many ways. And actually, it's such a small world that was kind of like a door opening to Nashville, because I'm sure you're aware, but a lot of like Gene's solo band members are all Nashville guys. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Ryan Cook and Phil Schaus and Jeremy Asbrock, those three especially, were all in Gene's band. Now they're touring with Ace. But that was before I went to Belmont. But I had already been accepted and all that. So when we got to play with them and meet them, I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to Nashville in the fall." They're like, "Oh no way, we're from there." It's like, it's just like one thing to the next. But yeah, it's just been a wild ride. Just been so many. I could keep going down the list. I'll try to do it really quickly. I know 18 was Gene Simmons, and then in the fall we did, as far as nationals, we played the Iowa State Fair Grandstand, which was pretty big, and we did Papa Roach and Chevelle on the grandstand,
That's
which is
insane.
pretty cool. I think that was a 14,000 seater. I don't know what the attendance was, but it was big.
Yeah, I mean, for those bands, yeah, I just saw Papa Roach on Friday, and they had an Incarceration Fest, and they're a huge place.
Sorry, it broke up a little bit again, but
Dude,
you
you're
want
all
to?
good. You're all good.
So yeah, we did Papa Roach, Chevelle. I think we had another show with Jackal. Then we've done shows with Striper and Great White, and I can't even. I just totally blank at them. I literally would have to pull out my list. We've done several shows with Three Dog Night, which is a little bit older.
Yeah,
We've
dude, still right up my alley though, man. I love that band.
done a couple more shows with Ted Nugent. So yeah, I mean, it's all been a lot more focused on like 70s and 80s stuff, but that's what we love, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was gonna ask, man. I mean, I definitely the hair metal stuff's my wheelhouse. Like, I love
Oh
your
yeah.
guys' sound. I hear a lot of like Dokken in there.
Yes,
I hear a
yes,
lot of,
I appreciate that reference there. I love that because Dokken has been a huge influence for all of us. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
every member of that band, I think, has influenced us, you know, pretty directly in our original material. If you listen to our original material, there's
Oh yeah.
definitely some stuff that emulates, you know, like Lynch for me, and even the vocals, you know, there's some of the phrasing and stuff is kind of, we've gotten compliments before from other people. It sounds like, oh, that sounds kind of like a mix between Don Doc and and Stephen Piercy and Rat, you
Dude,
know.
that's so, I mean, those are two like the heavyweights of that era, man. They're both awesome. So
Uh,
that's sick that I
yeah,
love it.
and of course we've always been huge Nugent fans. So back when we were like the biggest Nugent fanboys on the planet at age 14 and 15, we would love to go see Nugent when he had like Mick Brown from Dokken playing, and
Yeah, yeah.
so you know we've just always religiously followed them. But
Dude, that's so awesome, man. And I love that you guys were Belmont kids because there's a lot of rock bands at Belmont, but there's very few that I would say pull from like the classic metal, hair metal, glam rock side of things. So
uh-huh.
when you guys were in school, do you remember what other bands were around? I know Naked Gypsy Queens might have been around
that,
that
that
time.
rings a bell, but I can't for sure. And my memory is
Yeah,
terrible.
dude, you're good. You're
That's
good.
being totally honest with you. It rings a bell, but I can't say for sure whether or not I recall them being around while I was in school.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I very well could be wrong.
I think that they might have been a little early. I might be a little bit older than both of us because I want to say I know they were in school in like 16 and 17. They might have graduated in 17 then, but they're
Okay.
more like the 70s, like Led Zeppelin sound, Aerosmith sound. They were actually just on tour with Dirty Honey
Yes,
4 months
yes.
ago. So,
Yep.
but dude, so do you remember if you guys played any shows like in Nashville while you were at school?
No, we did not. And that's one of those things that I think I kind of hinted on earlier, that I was, you know, it just didn't end up happening. And part of it was, you know, me being focused on school, Teddy being focused on school, and with the geographic spread out, it just didn't end up working out. And it was such, you know, a short time, and really, like you said, about a year and a half with the summer in between.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
more or less, we were only down there for a year to begin with, and so it just wasn't quite enough time to really get an in. Like, of course we were scoping out all the venues we wanted to play, you know, like, well, I guess now it's gone, but like the Mercy Complex,
Yeah.
and you know, either of the basements and stuff. But it's definitely not something I'm going to rule out. Like I said, I'm hoping to get back down there myself by the end of the year and hope we can get the ball rolling and get on some big things down there and get the band down there. I would love to get us in there. I remember, and this, you're going to love where I'm going to take this.
Yeah, yeah.
I tried to get us on the rock showcase.
Oh, at Belmont, of course, dude.
And I don't want to say anything too much, but all I'll say is we didn't even get an audition.
Dude, well, I'll tell you this, man. I mean, I got no problem saying this because I say it all the time, but Belmont, like, I love the support they give musicians, but they don't have a hard rock showcase. And pop rock, they don't really get anything heavy on there. Battle of the Bands, which they do every fall. Even still, the heaviest you'll get is like the hardcore punk, like pop punk stuff. But
yeah.
So me and one of my best friends, Grace Patrick from Open Casket Wedding, I'm wearing her band shirt. I didn't even realize that coincidentally, but she and we did like our own like hard rock showcase, and we booked out Exit In, and we pulled together like every like heavy Belmont band. So we had like grunge, and we had metalcore, and we had every band that wouldn't get on a Belmont sponsored thing just because it was not exactly in their wheelhouse. But I'm glad you said that, because that is definitely something that I preach a lot about at school.
Yeah, that was something I was always so extremely disappointed with, was like, so when I was in school, and I'll ask you to clarify since you're currently there, but when I was a student there, my first year, they had 4 showcases, and it was pop, rock was its own. There was country and Christian. Those were the big 4. And then the second year I was there, which would have been my senior year, they merged pop and rock and added it wasn't R&B. They labeled it something differently. Maybe it's still the same.
It's actually called R&B now, which is interesting if they didn't start out like that. But it's
I remembered their term. They used the term urban.
Urban,
they labeled it.
I got you.
So, I mean, I went to the rock showcase my first year, and after going, I kind of realized, this is gonna be a small chance.
Yeah, dude. No, I mean, I definitely understand where you're coming from. Seeing the different showcases, it's like they don't really like to pick heavy bands at all, which is
no. And I guess part of my disappointment was like never to put myself or my band on any high pedestal, but I was thinking like, well, gee, if anybody's qualified to do it, it's like we have a dozen national act shows under our belt already. It's like I just felt like we deserved a chance and didn't get one. Period. Like I said, we didn't even get an audition. There was no consideration of it. I mean, at all, none.
Well, and especially in your guys' case, because you already were a band prior to coming to school. It wasn't like there was no question if you guys were sticking around or not. It wasn't like this was just a band that somebody formed and might break up in 2 months. Like you guys had like a whole track record of like shows and stuff.
I remember I was working for event services on campus, so I was putting quite a bug in a lot of people's ears about it's like, gee, like I'm really disappointed like there's not any consideration for like, I don't know if honoring is the right word I'm looking for, but like or maybe just appreciating would be a better word. Like, but like be more open to like all of the talent you have here. Like clearly there was somebody at the top saying like, no, like we just don't want that. And I asked a lot about it. I mean, I was digging deep and pressing a lot of people. And so the answer I usually got is that there was usually like, I want to say one or a group of students per showcase that were kind of at the head of it. And I don't know what they labeled that group or that individual, but it was kind of like they made it sound, at least the administration tried to make it sound more like it was, well, it's up to the students. And so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember
Even though
like
it's up to
I
just a
was
small group, you know.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
no, it's really funny you say that because I believe that's how it still is. And I know for Battle of the Bands, um, this past I don't know if they did that when you were in school. It's
yeah,
like,
yep,
yeah, in the
they
fall,
sure did.
like the first weekend of school or whatever. But so they had it this past year for the first time since COVID, and you know they had three fantastic bands play. I'm great. I'm good friends with all of them. They're great bands. And then they had the fourth band they had, the last band they had. They're called Sugar in the Gas Tank. They're also fantastic, but they are like a considerable step up heavier than the
Yeah,
previous three. And I remember when because they're like hardcore punk. They sound like they have screaming. They have like some of their songs are like drop B and like it's awesome. But I remember when they started playing and
yeah.
people heard that distortion for the first time when they were like line checking, people just lost it. And people want to hear heavy music, but some people don't
Well,
really
I
know it.
mean, let's not disregard what's currently happening with heavy music. I mean, as much of as much as I didn't want it to be this way for it like to come back, but look at Stranger Things. I mean, we can't discredit that clearly people hear something that's been around forever,
Yeah, yeah,
but it's just gotten shoved under the bus so far that people forgot about it, didn't even realize it existed, but they love it, you know?
exactly,
And
exactly.
it's like now we have a whole legion of new Metallica fans,
Mhm.
you know, and it's like I just heard that what was the pop song that was really popular from the 80s that on that track.
Oh shoot! I was just talking
I
to somebody
can't I,
about it.
I can't place a name on
I
it right
couldn't
now,
tell you what it was called. I didn't know it, but I remember it spiked in streams in the last month or
but
whatever.
I literally heard that on like the pop radio station locally here yesterday, like
That's
straight out of
awesome.
the blue. And it's like I know that song's from 1985, and I just couldn't believe it. It's like, well, it's really funny that they play this one, but they're not playing Master of Puppets.
Exactly, exactly. And dude, people would love to hear Master of
Oh
Puppets.
yeah,
It's fun.
absolutely.
You see on TikTok now. I mean, like all these like kids are covering it. It's great, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I totally appreciate that, but I just think it's just funny because it's like that's always how I've felt. Like you were just talking about. It's like you expose somebody to that side of it because they might have just had a stigma about it or something that they didn't ever want to touch it. But that's like then once it's there, they're like, "Holy crap, this is awesome!" You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's really funny.
Dude, I love that, man. And I think it's just I'm super appreciative to know that you guys like attempted to, you know, try and get on this stuff at our school because like I think that's such an important part is like never feeling like you should hide like the kind of music you make just because it's not what's, you know, super
Yeah.
popular at, you know, in the town you're in or the school you're in or whatever. Because your guys' EP came out while you were at Belmont, right? Because I was
Yeah,
19.
yeah, it did. Yep, it came out in the spring of 19. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we had put that out, and then, heck, I remember on spring break when that came out, we had to like, basically do what I called a fly date and come back home to do a show with Brett Michaels. That was fun.
That's awesome. That's
And
awesome.
at the time, his daughter Rain was actually a student at Belmont. So
Yes.
it was a really small world. I just remember it was so funny. Like Brett by far was the coolest one we've ever worked with, like through and through. But it was just so funny because we're trying to play it cool because like we were totally aware that Rain was a student there, and I never got to know her really, really closely or much at all, but we had some mutual friends, and she was really busy with her modeling on the weekends and stuff. But I just remember that Brett was talking to us like before the show and
Yeah.
asking, like, kind of just doing the small. It's like, hey, where are you guys from? What do you guys do? It's like, oh, well, we're originally from like 2 hours to the west of here, but I said we go to school at Belmont, and Brett just lit up. He's like, wait, you guys go to Belmont? I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you know my daughter Ray? It's like, yeah, of course. You know? But that was just so funny, like how small of a world it always seems to be. Like, I mean, just stuff like that happens all the time, you
Oh,
know?
that's so funny. That's so funny. I literally just saw Poison too last week with
Oh, nice.
Crew and Leopard, but I forgot that his daughter went here. But I'm
Yeah.
glad you reminded me. That's so funny.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That was a fun time, you know? So yeah, the EP came out, then we went and did that show, and it was fun. 19 was fun. And then like, you know, keep going back to 20. It's like, gosh, I'm
Yeah,
in
it's
Nashville. You
everything
can't
screwed up. Yeah. But dude, I mean, there's no better time to be a band like yours with what's currently happening with music. You know, I feel like everything that we're into is back on a rise. People want to hear riffs and they want to hear distortion and screaming and stuff. It's awesome. Like,
Oh yeah. We
where do
just
you, wait, sorry, my bad. You
oh
continue.
no. No, I was gonna say, I was just gonna play off what you're talking about. I was like, we just did a show this last weekend on Saturday night. We were in Arnold Park. Quite immersive. I just love it when I see kids like our age and even younger that are just going nuts, like rocking out to our original material, or like stuff that's like covers that we might do that are like deep cuts, you know? It's
Yeah, yeah.
like I saw some kids that were just losing their mind when we were playing Free for All by Ted Nugent. We played that as a cover,
Dude,
you
that's
know,
so awesome. That's so awesome.
and the kids just loved it. And I was like, yes, this is what we need more of.
Dude, I love that, man. I was gonna ask, like, what do you want to do with Bad Authority, like, moving forward? You know, whether it's like a year from now, a month from now, like, what do you see the next steps being for you guys?
I mean, the dream from day one has always been to do it full time, you know, and it's like, I would love to get out on the road and get on a big tour and play with some of these bands that we grew up listening to and admiring, and a lot of the bands that have influenced us. I am not ashamed to say that, like, we like to play with the old bands, you
Oh
know.
yeah, yeah.
Like, I know some people kind of look at it as like, oh, you know, like they were big 30-40 years ago, but it's like they still are. I mean,
Mhm.
like you just said, like you just went and saw Crew and Leopard and Poison at a stadium, you know,
Exactly,
and like
exactly.
clearly there is still a market for it.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I think long term, that's, I would just love to do that full time, you know, and get
Yeah.
out on the road and keep writing new stuff, and you know, it's where my heart has always been. Like, we mentioned Night Ranger, and like that was the band for me as a kid that got it all started. Was a Night Ranger CD in my dad's truck. It was just like, and I remember like I loved the music, and then I like one day was looking at the cover as a young kid, and I had said to my dad, I was like, Dad, why do they have girl hair?
Dude.
And he just thought that was so funny. So like he told his friend from work about it, and his friend from work was like an 80s hair metal head, and like ended up burning me these custom discs that said like girl hair music, but it was just full of like Poison, Dokken, Warrant, Firehouse, Extreme,
Dude,
you know, all.
I love that so much. That's awesome.
And so that's always been like where my heart's been at as far as my music taste and stuff, has always been that stuff.
Yeah. Well, every band you just listed, I mean, I think I've seen all of those except for Extreme.
Oh yeah.
I love every one of those bands. It's, you know, those are all the big ones. I mean, Bon Jovi's my huge, like,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like from the 80s, they're a big thing for me. But I love that there's still bands like yours and like ours that want to like bring that sound to the, you know, present day, because it's, you know,
Oh yeah.
I feel like every year we get a new band that's doing their farewell tour. You know, Whitesnake's about to do theirs.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Motley Crue's kind of, that didn't age well, but they did theirs, you know, like 5 years ago. Um, but I think it's so important that there's bands that are new and young and want to do the glam thing, or at least want
Oh
to,
yeah.
you know, transpose it into like a current setting,
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah. I would say that like we've definitely like, at least in crafting our sound, like it definitely resonates with all those bands, you know. But I would say there's a little bit some of a modern edge to it, because like we like modern rock too, you know, especially Teddy, our drummer, is like one of the biggest Octane fans I know. So it's like, you know, you listen to him drumming and he takes a lot away from that. So I don't know. I think we've always kind of tried to resonate with our influences, but also try and push it a little bit modern. I know, and even from a production aspect too, like we like really heavy bass, especially kick and guitars. So it's like, you know, some of the older recordings, it's like they don't thump quite as hard in the subwoofers, but we like that, you know.
Do you know the band Heat from Sweden?
Yes, and that's Eric, right?
Eric Gronwall, the man, dude. He's doing for Skid Row now, but dude, I sort of, when you say like that you want more thump, that's the band that does it for me. When it's like it's got the arena sound, 80s hair sound.
Yeah.
But like, dude, the bass on those songs and the drums are just huge. Like it's insane.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I know. It was funny, like when we were working on that EP we put out in 19, like when we were in the studio, like we were so picky with the engineer about like, yeah, and like it's like enough, like it just needs to cut. But I don't know, it's so hard to put into words. But like, I think on Until the End, especially, there's a lot of rumble there, especially with a 5-string bass. It really pushes that low end. I think for me, like going back to like an older recording, that's kind of like the epitome of like the sound I just like always hear in my head as far as those things would be Firehouse One, their debut album. That one just absolutely rocks.
Yeah.
And I think by the by the early 90s, they were really starting to get that sound that I just absolutely love from any production aspect. I mean, the guitars were so big, the bass and the drums were just absolutely monsters. I mean, all those mixes I think that were coming out from 1990 onwards, for the hair bands, I'll say, because I know grunge was a little bit different, but it was just totally killer. Like one of my all-time favorite records in addition to that would be like Vince Neil's solo record from the late 90s.
Absolutely, dude. It's killer.
And I'm trying to think of what I doing myself a disservice here and not recalling the title of it right now. Oh, Exposed. Exposed is the title of it, and he's got Steve Stevens on guitar, and it's amazing. I love it.
I want to backtrack 2 sentences because I love that you love Firehouse, because on our band's TikTok page, on my band's TikTok page, I made a TikTok that was like, it was like 5 essential hair band records that you need to go listen to. And one of them was Firehouse One. And people in the comments just anger. They were like, Firehouse is not an essential hair band. They're terrible. I was like, are you kidding me?
No.
Like, how can you listen to All She Wrote and tell me that's not just a fire song? It's so good.
There are so many barn burners on Firehouse One alone. I mean, like, you've got All She Wrote, you've got Rock on the Radio. I mean, that intro is,
dude, it's awesome. It's so heavy. Like,
and then like you get into some of their other stuff, you know, and it's like even some of their later, like Firehouse 3. Have you ever listened to?
Oh,
like,
dude, I've got all of them on CD.
I mean, there's some great stuff on, but all of it is good. I love it all, you know, and I would definitely consider them one of mine, but it's like I don't even think I could pick a top 5 for myself, you know. It's always changing so much.
Yeah, I mean, Firehouse for me, I saw them with Warrant and Winger in 2019, and I think Hold Your Fire is my favorite record they've done. I just think Reach for the Sky is just such a monster song. I mean, dude, but that's awesome that you love them, man. They're such a good one. They're such a good one.
They are great guys too. We've never officially opened for them, but there was one time we went to a show and it was at a venue that we knew pretty well. So the venue people just kind of let us run around. So we got to interact with them a little bit, got to meet them, whatever. And like Michael Foster, their drummer, was like so cool. He let Teddy, our drummer, go out and like line check every drum on his kit before they went out.
Cool. That's so cool.
Was loving it because like he's got the double bass kit and it just sounds monstrous, you know. And so, it was a fun time.
That's unreal, man. Well, dude, that's freaking sick. You guys have awesome influences. For the people listening, I want to ask you this: if you could pick one song from the Bad Authority discography. Just like for people that might not have heard you, pick one that's like the quintessential track that you would go for a first time listener. What are you going with?
I'm gonna go with the first one that came out, and that's "Born in Iraq." And I don't know what it is about that song, but I just, for me, it's like it's always just seemed to be like the one, like you're mentioning, like, and I don't even, I can't even recall like how exactly that song like came into formation, but I do remember, this is a really funny story. I was on a huge Rat kick at the time. I was like deep into Rat. And so like obviously as a guitar player, like Warren DeMartini is my man, you
It's one of
know?
the best, one of the
And
very
so
best.
like if you listen to Born in Iran, I think there's a very strong Rat influence, especially in the solo section. So if you're listening to that, it's like, yeah, kind of listen for that Warren sound and like the chord changes in the chorus and stuff. But my he's way, and there's a 5 string bass going on that with a low B in there that's rattling the subs, and so I think that would be my quintessential track for listeners that haven't heard us to check out.
Awesome, awesome. Well, dude, it's been a freaking pleasure, man. Thank you so much for hopping on. This has been awesome.
Yes, dude, we could go on forever. I love
Oh,
it.
we're gonna do part two when you guys drop some new music or come to Nashville, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, that would be awesome. I'd appreciate that,
Heck yeah, Kyler, dude. Thank you so much, man.
dude. Yes, let's do it again.
Absolutely, bro.